start with, before we talk about school, how long in total have you lived in Knutsford? How many years?
Oh, I think we came in 38. So that's a long time. 35, it's 80-something years, isn't it?
Okay. And where were you born?
I was born in Manchester. I'm a Lancastrian by trade. The Queen is my Duke. Very proud of that.
Good. And then, so you were born in Manchester, and then what did home life look like? So you lived. Did you have any brothers and sisters?
I've got an older brother, and I can't remember much of up there till we moved down to Altrincham when I was about 2.5. So we weren't much long. I've had very few memories of Manchester.
Okay. And so it was Altrincham first.
We
and then, at what age were you when you moved up to Knutsford?
We came here in, let's say now, just before the war started. We were in Knutsford, so I'd be about 4.
Okay.
Yes, but we're only 35. Yes, be about 4.
Okay. And so how many people lived at your family house? It was yourself?
4 of us, brother and I, mum and dad. Oh, during the war, 5. We had a cousin living with us, was an evacuee.
Okay. And your mum and dad, what did they have an occupation or a job or a profession?
My dad ran and owned Knutsford Paradise Garage, and my mother was his bookkeeper, virtually. That was it.
Good. And what was your earliest memory of them or living at home in Knutsford? It's the first thing you can remember.
I can remember something in Altrincham. I was a lot younger. This will make you cry, but never mind. I have a teddy bear, and I still have a teddy bear. We'd moved from Manchester to Altrincham, and the lady next door said to my mother one day, "Can I give Bill a teddy bear?" Mum says, "He hasn't got one." And she brought this teddy bear and gave it to me, and I thought it was Ace. As we turned away, she said it was my son's, and he died. So after that, when my mother told me that, it made it very special, and has been ever since.
Of course.
My kids could only play with it when I was there. I still have him. A bit daft, but there you are.
Lovely. Brilliant. So you said there were 4 of you, and 5 of you during the war in the
Yes.
house. Were grandparents on the scene, or did you have any relatives that lived nearby?
My dad's parents were dead. I never met but my grandma Lomas and granddad Lomas lived at Millington. They had a small holding and dairy farm.
Okay. And were there any kind of aunts or uncles or anyone that would come to visit, or you go to them?
There's only Uncle Ernie, which we knew. He lived on the farm with his mother at Millington. Uncle Bill was in the Navy, lost his life. Uncle Bert was in the RAF. So that's about it.
Mm-hmm. And would you have seen much of them or not?
My grandparents at Highley, yes, we did. Because of the guys, my dad's car was registered as a hackney carriage. He used to do taxi work as well. And it was a 5-mile radius. And fortunately, Highley came just inside that 5-mile radius. But do you want to know the story of Highley? We'd go over there, and my granddad, when there was an air raid, my granddad would go outside and watch it. And we were coming home, and he said, "Bert, you should go round the Kilton. Why? There's something fallen between us and the Swan Hotel." I said, "Oh, bloody rubbish." We get about half a mile from the Swan Hotel, and all of a sudden we're going through brambles and rubbish and bits of rubber on the road. We carried on and went away. Next morning we learnt that the bomb blew up and blew about 25 yards of road up. And for years the road was a different colour because it was a different colour.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the things.
Mm-hmm.
We were a bit close to it then.
So how old were you when that happened?
Oh, I'd be 6, something like that, early on in the war, 6, yes. But the only other memory I've got is a bit morbid, this. My dad woke me one night. We lived in Acacia Avenue. And he opened the curtains, it was dark, and there was a glow in the sky. He said, "That's Liverpool burning." And that stayed with me for the rest of my life. I thought, yes. But people were killed in Knutsford for bombs.
And do you have memories of? And I'm sure air raid sirens were.
Oh yes,
were a thing.
oh yes. The where booths are now, there was air raid shelters on the far side. And I was in Edgerton School, and if the siren went, we were out putting the air raid shelters.
Got it. Okay. And did you ever hear shelling nearby, or was that?
No
apart
shelling.
from that?
No. I don't think there's any anti-aircraft around here.
Right. And just in terms of kind of home life, what would did you spend a lot of time with your siblings? Were you sporty? Were you how did you entertain yourself? Kind of.
Well, there was Acacia Avenue. There's about 6, 7 kids, all about roughly. My brother 2 years older than me, and there was others just. And we went around as a gang. Of course, it's bikes. You had bike, and I've got to be. In those days, Acacia Avenue where we lived was cinder, it hadn't been made up. It was great for skidding your bike on. And we played football on it, because how many cars were about? Kick a ball in the street, you played cricket in the street, because there's no cars.
Of course. And
Or very few.
Were there sporting institutions, so Knutsford Football Club, Knutsford Tennis
No,
Club?
I didn't know any of those at that time.
Right.
No.
But it was a lot of kind of outdoor play.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
If it was fine, you're out. That was the thing.
And was there some kind of curfew for you and your
Oh
family?
yes, we were dragged in at a certain time. But I can't remember what time. I think when the summer it went longer because it was fine.
Mm-hmm.
If you're outside, you weren't making the noise inside.
Of course. And Mrs. Cowburn, now, did you go to school with her, or where did you meet?
We were introduced by a friend of a mutual friend.
Through school?
No, oh God, no.
Just friends.
I was grown up. Old, I was old when I met her, my wife.
And you have two
Daughters.
2 daughters. And if you look back to say something a bit more mundane in Knutsford, something like shopping. Now we have booths now in Tesco and Sainsbury's. What did you do for a week's shop? Would you go out with?
They were grocers. We dealt with a Mr. Dutton that lived on the Maxfield Road. As it goes up the hill, there used to be a little shop halfway up, and we dealt with this and used to deliver it. Mum used to give him an order and he used to deliver it once a week.
Right.
And he used to come and have a cup of tea.
Right.
And that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the milk, Mr. Frith, that was delivered every day with the pony and trap. But it wasn't in bottles. You knew when he was there, you took your jug out and you wanted 2 pints. He took 2 pints out of the churn and put them in there.
Excellent.
That was fresh milk.
And what would be, obviously in those between 39 and 45, resources were not scarce, but they were more
scarce
than normal. What would be something that you would have looked forward to eating? What would have been a treat?
Well, my mother used to scheme and we used to get, for Christmas, a 2-pound jam jar full of boiled sweets. We thought that was bloody heaven. You read that very carefully.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of a meal, what would be, let's say you went home on a Friday and there was a meal on the table that
Oh yes,
you
no.
particularly liked. What would that have been?
I can't remember a lot of it. It was food. That was all. I can't remember what we had. No. We didn't go hungry, let's put it that way.
Sure.
We did not go hungry.
Sure. And on the high street then in Knutsford, obviously now we have a whole host of shops. But was there a certain institution that you remember, like a youth club or a church or something, which
There was
now
no-
passed?
There was no youth club. The youth club came after the war. No, there was the Methodist Church was a fairly big body that we went to. We joined that one. And nothing really else, so not for us anyway, not for kids, for youngsters.
So for kids it was more...
Looked at, you did
made
yourself.
your own-
It was bikes and playing cricket and all that
Right,
kind of thing. That was it.
Right.
And school, of course.
School. And school was... Which school did you go to?
We started at Silk Mill School, so that's the infant school in Silk Mill Street, which is now an empty plot.
And then primary school and secondary, where was that?
Edging was the next step up. You'd go up there to take your... You went there, let me think. You went at 9 to Edgerton, and you did standard 1 and standard 2. At the end of standard 2, you took your 11 plus. My brother passed and went to Multingham Grammar. I failed. I was going to stay where I was. That was it.
Right. And in terms of other events in the town, do you remember much about May Day? Did May Day take place?
No, May Day wasn't not during the war, no.
During the war years?
No.
And were you a part of it after?
After I joined up, not later on. I was in it once. I was Friar Tuck. And it rained, and it rained, and it rained. And I thought, well, if that's May Day, you can stick it. And I only joined up again when my kids started going in it. Then I was rounded to do a job. I pulled Grace Darling round for about 30 years.
See. Which one's that?
Grace Darling, it's a boat.
Oh, right, yeah.
It's a boat. Grace Darling did the rescue type of thing, and
Yeah.
there's some Navy with you as well.
Yeah. I know someone carries the person right at the end. I can't remember who.
The
that
beginning, Jack in the Green.
is. Is that it? Yeah.
That's the colour.
Two guys.
Oh no, that's the sedan chair.
That's the one. That's the one.
No, it's bloody heavy.
I
That
always
was.
feel sorry for them. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you
a hard job.
another joke about this. The bloke I work with, his father-in-law used to carry it, and one day somebody, when they weren't looking, shoved a 56-pound weight under the seat.
See, doubly hard then.
But yes, but the other thing there, you know Knutsford at all? No. Bottom Street, King Street, and you've got Minchell Street coming down.
Mm-hmm.
The carriers of the sedan chair used to turn left there while we carried all the way around, but they waited outside the Eldon for you to catch up. Normally with a glass in one hand.
See, I remember, yeah. In terms of the green spaces in Knutsford, so we had the Heath, Tatton Park, and stuff like the more.
Well, the Tatton Park ones are later on.
Okay.
Because the army were there.
So the army were based in Tatton.
Yeah, there's some army in Tatton, but this is where the parachutists trained.
Okay. Do you have any memory of seeing that? Or
Yes, always there all the time.
Oh, right.
Aeroplane going over and they aren't. I think we saw one Roman candle where the chute didn't open.
Oh, really?
I believe they buried him.
But it was common to see.
Oh, see him flying over the Whitleys, flying out. Yeah.
Right. And in terms of was the sky above Knutsford busy? I mean, I know it's quite busy now with commercial traffic, but did you see a lot of planes generally in the
There was a fair amount of aeroplanes because, like say, Ringway was a military airbase. Yes, there was quite a bit there. And of course, Lancaster bombers were built just round the corner in Manchester, so you had them taking off.
Would you ever interact with troops, or would you ever?
Not really.
Kept
No, we kept really away. You didn't go and interfere because normally when they were out and about, they were working, so you didn't want kids around. But we didn't see many of the British troops, only road transport moving them.
Which nationality were the troops that you saw?
They were English.
English.
English as far as I know.
Okay. Was there anywhere where you would spend time with friends? Was there a place to be? Was there a place to go?
No, you went to your mates two doors down. We went into their house.
Right.
We're free on. But you had friends that you went to see, and that was it. There was no youth club or anything like that going at the time.
Okay. With troops coming in and out, did you ever feel unsafe? Was it a reasonably spirited, happy place?
It was a reasonably happy place for what I saw it. Yes, it was really. Yeah.
And after an air raid siren or bombing, was there a sense of kind of discomfort in Knutsford, or did people?
No, I think you live with it. You live with it. Yeah, just there.
Did you ever work? I mean, I know you were very young. Did you ever do odd jobs or anything like that? Any pocket money job or?
No, I don't think I ever did. There was nothing to spend any money on. What could you spend it on? Sweets were rationed. If you didn't have your ration book, you couldn't have sweets.
So a ration book so if you wanted something sweet, generally it went through, what did it go through?
You had coupons that they took out.
Okay. Easy as that.
Easy.
So let's say for Christmas or a birthday or a special occasion, it would come out of your parents' ration book. They would.
Well, no, my mother would ration us and not give them to us. Just keep a few back every day. So
right.
We wouldn't know any different.
Just moving on about Knutsford in general. Did you know anyone that was, obviously they would have been older than you, but that was in the infantry or a troop who was involved in the war?
Yes, we had. Our next door but one neighbour, the eldest son, was in Burma. They ended up in Burma. But that's my Uncle Bill, who was kindred to what's name. He was in the Navy. Bert went into the RAF. And he's in agriculture, so he didn't go.
And do you have, now today, would you have childhood friends from that time or not? And people you've kept in touch with since the war?
Yes, from scouting days, not from the war, from probably behind it. The scouting days, the war years, no. I don't think there are any. But after that, once school started, when you got to school properly, then there are people I'm still friends with.
Good stuff. And is there anything you would say, although it was a incredibly difficult time for people, is there anything you miss about those days, or no?
No, not really. Only there was a companionship that is not here today. There was a companionship. You watched out for everybody, and everybody watched out for you. You went everywhere, and it was dead safe to go anywhere. There was always somebody, and you knew everybody, and everybody knew you. That's the way it worked.
And that's changed. You think that's changed over time?
Oh yes. Since the goggle box arrived, I think that was the big thing that changed it. Life changed considerably when that really came in. I mean, at first it was quite posh to have a television, you know. And life was much more open because, like say, I did military service. And everybody did military service. So, you know, at a certain age, you knew you were on your way. I didn't leave England, I was very fortunate, but I know other people that fought in Korea, in Malaya, and as national servicemen.
And what age were you when you signed up to national service?
I was 21, I was deferred because I was doing apprenticeship. I started my basic training at Honiton. And when I passed out basic training, I went to Colchester to 6th Command workshops. I was only there a week, and I was paid to No. 2 detachment, which was at East Wretham on an ex-Mosquito airfield, looking after TA vehicles, We did that for the summer. Then went back in and worked on everybody's vehicles there. Then I got posted out to a place called St Neots on the side of the A1, which was very nice. So I kept my nose clean there and stayed there for the rest of the time.
Excellent. So you could have been called up to go somewhere. Did you have friends who went abroad?
Yes, I got a bit frightened. The Suez thing blew up. I was on leave. I'd taken a couple of days extra the bank holiday to do some work on the car. And NASA nationalised the Suez Canal, and we went to war. And I was called back. And I thought, this is getting a bit bloody dangerous. I didn't sign up for this. But I had friends after that I knew that went into Egypt to conquer it.
Good stuff. And then taking it back to Knutsford, would you ever, this is before your time doing national service, would you ever have gone to kind of peripheral towns? So Knutsford, nearby is Moberley, we've got Northwich and Altrincham.
Oh no, Manchester. Jazz clubs in Manchester. If you went on a Tuesday night, it was free because they were rehearsing, so you could get down there. And you have to remember that I saw Johnny Ray in Manchester, and these kind of people. They came for a week, not one program, not one. They came for a week at the Palace Theatre to do 2 shows a night. Frankie Lane and these kind of people. You went to see them.
And how old were you when you went to see these?
Oh, that'd be after I finished in the military, so 23, 24. No, it could have been before I went in, some of it. Oh yeah, before I went in. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Good life.
Good life. And you touched on it a little bit before, but if you compare your formative years when you grew up and life then, the pace of it, to life now, what do you think has changed? Not necessarily in the context of Knutsford, but just society.
Society, I think there are a lot more. I've got to be really a bit more selfish. There was a lot more through the war, and it carried on quite a long time. That you looked after your mates, and it wasn't quite the same afterwards. That's a very thought. Thank God they'll stop doing that.
And do you remember so when the war ended, you must have still been young, but do you remember those initial 5-10 years after the war? Were they particularly hard? Obviously there was an economic situation, but...
Not really for us kids, I must be honest. We didn't really suffer badly. We didn't, all right, there weren't things you could have and this kind of thing. But... no, we didn't go short of much after. There was restrictions, there always was after a war, getting things sorted out. But really, no, we didn't starve, let's put it that way. But if you could afford a new car, you looked like something else out of, whack, what is new,
And how old were you when you got your first car, and what was it?
My first car was when I passed my driving test at, was it 18 in those days? In 1923 Oakland, my father was into veteran cars. And this one turned up, and I bought this. Because the joke was, because I've taken interest in club racing at Hilton Park. Well, when you watch the club racing, it was 10 bob to take the car in. Didn't matter how many people were in it. Well, I could get 9 in that if we put the hood down and they sat along the back seat. So we went. It was quite good.
So I want to really take it back. One of the key memories for you was obviously seeing the American soldiers arrive.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about that and how that made you feel?
I remember when the Americans arrived, my first memory of them was I was going to school, I'd be about 7. And in Northwich Road, they'd dug the road up, across the road. The water supply was on the Little Heath, and they needed it on the Big Heath where they were going to go. And they dug a trench, filled it in, and they put a truck in, the wheels in, back and two, to compact it. And I thought this was very smart. This was very good indeed, this. And that's the first time I saw them. And then, as of course, I walked past them and watched the camp grow. Literally, that was it. Because really, see, there wasn't a lot, when they were building it, there wasn't a lot. These were engineers that came to build camps. They weren't soldiers, well, they were soldiers, but they built camps, and when they finished it, they'd go off to build another one.
So how did that make you feel when you see Knutsford, which is quite a small community, and suddenly there's this military presence? How does that make you feel?
This was very exciting. Things were going on. There was a war on. We were going to fight back again, and it mattered, even to kids. You took an interest in them. Because they were quite friendly.
And why was there an element of excitement?
Well, you knew we started to do well. You get it from your parents. We're going to start going back. There's something going the other way now. We've got support. I know it sounds a bit early, but you think, hang on, we're not on our own anymore. This little island stuck on here, being bombed, So it made you think, hang on, no, we're going the right way.
Perfect. And you talked before, with something that stuck with me when we were just speaking with Phil, was about you talking to your family and seeing Manchester and Liverpool on fire. I really want you to take me a bit back to that, if you can, just set that up once more.
Right. My father woke me one night and woke me and drove the curtains back, and there was a glow in the sky, and it was Liverpool burning. And he said, that's the war getting close to us. And it was. It made you feel very vulnerable. And there was a bomb dropped in Knutsford about that time. He went off and killed 2 people. It was just done. And the funny thing about this is a daft thing, really. But my dad went to open the garage doors, and there was 2 foot of foam. Because when the bomb went off, everything went up in the air, but the fire extinguishers turned around and came down and blew off, didn't they? So we had to clear all the foam. We came back. There was 2 foot of foam right through the garage, which we thought was hilarious, but, but that's about it.
Obviously, knowing that the war was so close, and it even impacted Knutsford itself with killing those 2 people, what did that mean for you, and how did you feel?
Really, I was too young to feel anything. I was safe at the time. People had died, we knew bombing went on, and it was just one of those things that people got injured and died, and that was part of it. So, but that's all you got, see. I mean, it was only about 7 years old, so really, tomorrow's a long way off. It was only later, when the Americans started to come, we got involved with them, because they we owned Paradise Garage, and they commandeered 2 of the pumps for their fuel, because they were in Toft. It was an American army camp. Lower Peever was an army camp. There was one at Mobley. So there was an awful lot of people about. The pubs did very well. But no, it's just this, the thought of things, and it did get to you, think, but these were on our side, and it made a difference. They were friends. And later on, like I say, they commandeered these 2 pumps for us, and we had 2 Americans that were in the garage all the time, filling up army vehicles as they came past. But my father tells me a story. He said he was sat in the office at the front of the garage, and this American car pulled in and blasted 2 big wing-tone horns, nearly blew him out of the office. So he went out and played bloody hell with this driver. And then he looked in the back, and the bloke that was laughing in the back was General Patton. So he had a thought, didn't know what to do, but he thought it was hysterical, me playing bloody hell with this bloke. But he always knew where Patton was. He had this big car with wind-tone horns and normally outriders coming with him with sirens on. You knew where Patton was, which in later history, that was the idea. They showed the Germans where Patton was. He wasn't, he wasn't going to attack them that day, but he was doing a lot of other work down there to do it, as history shows. General Patton, Chief American Officer. A very hard man, I believe, but like I say, my dad thought my dad was hysterical playing out with this bloke.
Perfect. So, looking back to obviously your family members, including your father, what were their duties in the war? You talk about them being in the RAF.
Yes, they were. I don't know what they did. Bert, I know Bert was looked after aeroplanes. He was a mechanic. He looked after aeroplanes. Bill, we know, was torpedoed twice. He was rescued both times there. One time they were in an open boat and they came across a Liberty ship. You know what a Liberty ship is? It's what the Americans built, one-offs through there. And they got aboard it and there's food on board, and they actually raided in and they actually towed it back into Halifax Harbour. That's what this shows. Where their names on it, we don't know. But and then he came and he was in a coast. He was near a gunner. That's what he was in the Navy. And the ship got sunk off Ireland and he drowned. There's life in it.
Do you remember that when that happened and hearing that news?
Oh yeah, I remember Uncle Bill going, yeah. Grandma was devastated. But I think that's the only casualty we had in our family. I think we had nothing else.
And how old were you?
I'd be 8, 9 years old when it happened. But we were lucky. Bert was in the RAF and he was in West Africa looking after aeroplanes, seaplanes. So he was out of the way.
And obviously having family members away from home, how did that affect you and the rest of the family?
When my family were away, like I say, my mum was concerned about them, but her mother was still alive and her granddad, her father was still alive. So there was always support all the way around. That was it. See, you did what you could when you could. It's a different world we live in.
Do you remember saying goodbye to them in the first instance?
No, we never said goodbye. They just gone, because they weren't living in Knutsford. They were living at Highley with Grandma, so they just went. I don't think they were into goodbyes. They were just get it over and done with.
And what about when they returned home?
It was a relief when the war ended. That was the first relief. And then you were waiting for them to come home. And all of a sudden they arrived. You didn't know when they were coming. They just arrived back and there they were. And he was happy. It is a happy time. People say, people lost a lot of people, but there was a lot of people survived, and it made a difference.
Do you remember those emotions?
Not really, no. I was sorry for him, but really, it doesn't touch you when you're that age. No, it doesn't touch you. It didn't touch me anyway. I must be awkward.
What about any memories of celebration?
Right, yes. We had our local processions, and one day my dad said, we're going to London. My dad was a London family. So we went down to London to see his parents. We were dealing with that. And we were walking down Whitehall, just past the cenotaph, and my dad's cousin said, this would be a good place to stop and wait for the procession tomorrow. So we spent a night on the pavement, by the cenotaph, and there was a crowd, so it was solid. The only thing that made us laugh, a sailor appeared, and he strung his hammock between two trees, and he slept up there. And everybody was quite jealous of him. And then next day, the procession came past, the picture procession, which was staggering. How the hell they got all these troops over here? But they got them. But the only thing, we made one slight mistake. When they came to the cenotaph, the band stopped playing. And when they got about 20 yards past, they started playing again. So it's one of these daft things you think, you know. I'll always remember it. And it was like, you know, it's finished. And there we are. We just carried on, then came back home and started work again.
Did life continue as normal? Did it change?
No, it changed. It was normal. The shortage were on there. Everything was in short supply. Everything had a value. Everything had a value.
Can you tell me a little bit more about what changed it was specifically and why? Or how that changed your family and the community of Knutsford?
It didn't really change us at all. We just carried on the way it was. I had one very sad moment when, what was coming? Some fruit would be coming in, and if you went with your brushing boot, you could have two or something like this. And I was playing with my mate at the end of, we lived in Acacia Avenue, and my next door neighbour, Tommy, came on his bike and said, "I'm going out," and rode straight into the road and was killed because he was hit by a car. I can remember him now going through the air. That was very sobering. Yeah.
Obviously, you don't want to pry too much, but how did that make you feel, and has that affected you since?
No, things happen. I have no control over it. Can't do anything about it. So I carry on living. And everybody else does the same, really. The parents were very down. I couldn't understand it. We were for a bit, because it's rather daft, this. It was Northwich Road. And because the traffic had not been resurfaced right through the war, the tar was smooth. And we used to roller skate down the road, because it was nice and smooth in a dead straight line. Because where we were, it was all higgledy-piggledy. You couldn't roller skate at all. But he died on his bike, going through something that was coming in on, to come at the greengrocers. Yeah, I see. You do feel things like that.
I want to take you back a little bit, if that's okay, to obviously the air raid shelters and when you heard those, if you ever did.
Well, the air raid shelters were on where booths are. That's where the air raid shelters were. And you just went into them, that was it. There was odd one for streets. There was one on the end of Cranford Avenue. So there was an air raid shelter there. That was, I presume, we lived in Acacia Avenue. We didn't have one. My mother used to bring us downstairs and took us in behind the fireplace, which is the safest place. So my dad had gone out. My dad was with the ARP. And when the alarm went, he was off. Mother had to, because my cousin lived with us, I say, and she had to maul those three gangling kids down the stairs. I mean, we never even woke up. We woke up downstairs in the morning. We never even woke up. She got us loose to carry us downstairs. We were fast. Man, we were sleeping three in a bed. It's a big double bed, so my mum says, "I'm not having three lots of bloody sheets to wash. So all of you go in one bed."
Do you remember any memory of hearing those sirens go off?
Oh yes, you could hear the sirens go off. Because you were alarmed. You know, why? Oh my God, you were ready. Because there was one, just at the end of the road on the fire station. There used to be a fire station on the end of Stanley Road. So that used to go off. Yeah, you did. And what could you do?
What were the feelings at that point? I know you were young, but did you have any memory of the sense of how people were feeling?
Not really. They didn't show it. They just got on with life. You know, you had to get on with life because there was nothing else for you. But that was about it.
Fantastic. We've obviously talked about May Day before. Can you just set up what is May Day?
That's a very good question. I'm a vice president. I don't know what the hell it's about.
Okay.
They made me a vice president, but I've never found any vice yet because I keep living in hopes.
So you're not sure what it is?
No, it's just a celebration of spring, virtually, as far as I know. It's always in May. Celebrations, you know, I presume it's, how can I put it, medieval, that the year has come round, we're alive, spring's starting, we're on our way again. That's all it really is, you know. We've survived the winter. I think that's all.
With that in mind, what meaning does that have for the community?
I think it's just a celebration now. It's not there at all. It's getting a bit carnival-y as far as I can see. I'd be being particularly to take that out. No, it's just there. I mean, I pulled Grace Darling round. What the hell Grace Darling was doing Knutsford May Day, I've never found out. Because it was somewhere off bloody Scotland. She deserved it, how we got to. But there you are.
My last two questions are about coming to almost the end of the war and with VE Day. Do you have any remember of that day?
Oh, yes.
Particularly?
Yes, when it came on, yes.
Can you talk me through that?
It was relief. That's all I could say, it was relief. But we had people still fighting in Japan, fighting Japanese. So there was no really, hang on a bit, you know, we finished with these lot, we're still over there. And he hadn't finished by a long chalk. And it was there, people knew about it. But, I mean, no, we had a good war, like I say. We had Americans were in the garage. We got very friendly with two Americans. Ray Dibble and Joel Gorrath. How's that pulled back? One of them actually, when we were, he came to stay with Mum and Dad. One after in the last 10 years or something like that. Came over to him and his wife came over, and it was rather a nice thing, you know. He wanted to come over to show his wife where he'd been and all this kind of thing. So that was quite touching, really.
If you could just set up, I want to just a couple of lines about your what VE Day was and how that made you feel in terms of the memories that you had.
When we heard of VE Day, it was a very joyful town. People are out and about, shaking hands, this kind of thing. It's over and done, well, it's half over. And it was always, in most people's mind, it hadn't finished yet. This piece had finished, but like I say, that piece hadn't, and there was a lot of people that, 2 or 3 people we knew that were out there. So you were very concerned until that finished, and it was going to be a long, I mean, you may not like the atomic bomb, but it worked there. The Japanese said, hang on, we can't take this, so we'll give in. And that's the first time we really knew about an atomic bomb or what it was.
That's perfect. My only thing is, do you have any memory of hearing war being announced?
No, I don't. I think we were, I can't remember sitting around because we used to sit around and listen to the news with my dad. But I can't remember anything of the actual announcement. It was just there. People came out and said it's all over, you know. VE Day, so-and-so. No, I can't anything that actually was announced, I must be honest. I can't remember that.
No worries.
The news that came on, and it was religion. Virtually, you sat down to see what's going on, see if there's any information coming out. And like I say, we always sat down with my dad before we went to bed. We sat down and listened to the news on the radio.
It was almost religious for you. Was it almost religious for you?
Well, it was. You did come and listen to it. Yes, it was important. Did you hear last night when everybody went out? Oh yes, it was important, very important. The BBC did a very good job in those days. I must be honest. We got information.
And when you heard the end of the war, was it through the radio?
I've no idea. I haven't a clue. I don't even know where I was. I have no idea where I was, what it came in.
You just remember the feeling of everyone.
Oh, it was relief. It was relief. There's, only like somebody said, we've got to tidy a lot up yet, so it won't be easy for a long time. And it wasn't. There was shortages for a long, long time.
Do you remember seeing, so in Manchester or Liverpool, did you kind of visit some of those cities after the war? So did you see some of the devastation there?
Oh yes, I went round Manchester just on the end of the railway, and there was posh shops in Manchester. But
so can you detail to us, almost paint the picture of what you saw?
well, it's just that the main thing was when we got to Piccadilly. And it wasn't what we saw before, because it was a lot of rubble in there. Piccadilly was a lot of damage done there. That's why it's a garden now. They never rebuilt it, and really that's all we did. Really, we didn't do much round here. It was just a celebration. It's over. Let's go. But like I say, it wasn't over. But it just happened when it was done, and then we were finished.
What was it like seeing those buildings that you'd had seen before?
Oh, it was very concerning. You think, right, what's happened here? Because when a bomb went off in a big, a 3 or 4 story building, it did a lot of damage. I mean, there's 1 or 2 bombs around Knutsford, but it didn't do. It knocked a house down, but no, it was. You noted how big it was, because they cleared it up fairly easily, very quickly, because we went up to, they had a Spitfire in the middle of the town that we had to go and do. There was raising money to build Spitfires. Well, they collected aluminium pots and pans to make Spitfires, get the aluminium. That's what people did. But really, we were round here. It didn't really touch us physically in that rate very much. Just the odd one went. And the only laugh I had, we were at my dad's folks in Buxton for Christmas, and we were playing on the floor, and all of a sudden, woof, when the house shut, we carried on playing because we knew a bomb had gone off somewhere. They never had a bomb in Buxton. They didn't know what they were. It was like another place on this earth. I don't know why. But when we came back again, there was 2 places in a bald patch in the field, because the soil was only about 6 inches deep. It went bang and just cleared the landmine, cleared the top off it. So we knew. It just made you think a bit. Hang on, if they'd have been a bit nearer, they could have. But we'd lived through that for a few years, so you think, hang on. If your number's up, your number's up. A lot of people think, you couldn't do much about it. But there we are, that's me. Other people may have thought differently.
Is there anything you would say to today's generation? Because obviously there's a lot there that they would never, might not ever experience. I might not experience it in my lifetime. But is there anything you would say to the generations that? Not really. There's enough out there without me saying anything. I mean, the history has been well done, documented, filmed, and shown. But I survived it, the family survived it, and that's all that mattered.